Hello. Today, for this edition of Tap Into You, Take Me to Your Leader, I'm here with Flemington Council President, Caitlin Giles-McCormick. Caitlin, thank you for joining. Can you tell listeners a little bit about yourself, your background, how you ended up in Flemington?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me today. I do appreciate these kind of creative ways to try to reach out and communicate as much as possible with our constituents, with our community, because it's harder to do right now, but it's really, really important. So thank you for inviting me today and doing this series. I think it's really wonderful.
Awesome.
I officially moved to the borough about 6 years ago. I have been around though for a bit longer than that. My wife actually grew up in Flemington, in the borough, was born at HMC,
Cool.
went to school at Daymar. So I have a lot of history that I've kind of learned by osmosis and picked up through them, and all my in-laws are kind of around as well. So it was a really nice introduction.
Yeah.
I actually came to Flemington about 16 years ago for, I think, the holiday parade. And it was just like the cutest thing ever. It was like one of the first times I was in town. It was a wonderful introduction. And I really just saw initially, immediately how special Flemington is and the wonderful charm we have and the wonderful people that we have. And it's been a rough road since the recession in particular in 2008. But we have so much potential here, and I have two small children, and we want to make this community everything it can be for them, for us, for everybody. So that's how I got involved. I started coming right when we officially moved here about 6 years ago. I started going to council meetings pretty much right away because I had heard so much from my in-laws. I'd heard about, the small town politics that every place has, but I wanted to see it for myself because it's like everybody's got their spin on things. Everybody's got their, their own history and perspective on things. So I really appreciated seeing it up close and personal right away, and then just got more and more into it over the last 6 years. So.
Where are you from originally?
So it's a little winding road. I was born in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
But I spent most of my adolescent years in Delaware, the state, not the county.
Not the river.
Yes, not the river.
Not
the river. So yeah, just off of lots of New Jersey people around because I was
sure, especially at UD.
Yes, exactly. Right? I was about a block away from the train station growing up. Right by UD. Both my parents actually worked there. So we didn't always say the nice things about the New Jersey people, but we appreciated.
That's fine.
And now I know, now that I've been an adopted Jersey girl, I get it. And I get the uniqueness that is this state and the variety that we have here. And I love it. There's no place like it. There's no place. So.
Do you have any Delawarean pride? To saying that President Biden is from the state.
Yeah, so absolutely, and it's weird because I feel like being from such a small state, growing up there, he was very accessible. He came and talked to my high school class almost every year that I was in high school at some point, and it was usually there's a couple times I remember it was the last period of the day. And he kept talking. I just school's over. Can we leave?
Yeah.
We appreciate you. School's over. And it's interesting. It's great to see Delaware kind of get some attention. And that pride is definitely there. I certainly support the president and very impressed with the first, 100 or so days that we've been to at this point. Would ride the train with him sometimes. My father and I, we would go on the train down to DC and we'd see him every once in a while. So it's this weird kind of dynamic, but it is exciting.
Amtrak Joe.
Yep.
All
absolutely.
Right. So do your in-laws brag about you a lot? Like, I'm trying to imagine. I'm trying to imagine me being council president of my in-laws' hometown, and like that's unique, right? Like that's like you're the newbie, and here you are now, council president. I imagine my in-laws just brag. That's right. Like.
Well, I I rely on them a lot for that, and having the history that's right here in my house with Tiffany, with my wife. I can really tap in very quickly to kind of, you know, some of the baggage that's around certain issues and things like that. My in-laws think that I'm a little bananas for doing this.
Yeah, why?
My mother-in-law was on planning board for a little while.
Okay.
She's been a volunteer for a long time. My father-in-law actually does HVAC around town, but also for the borough sometimes as well. So he's like, they're very much into what's going on in town, and they know that it can be bumpy sometimes. You know, it can be.
Yeah.
People, like, one of the things about Flemington is that there's lots of passion and there's lots of pride, and sometimes that doesn't come out in the most productive ways, and it's navigating that, which I think some people find particularly challenging. I find it challenging too, but it is essential because these are the people in our community. We can't kick them out. It's not like a job where you can fire somebody. Like, these are the people in our community, and we have to figure out the way forward, and bring as many people with us as we can and be receptive when there are issues. So I hear good things from other people that they've talked to. I hear positive things from them, but they're always like, are you doing all right?
Yeah.
So, which is fine.
So let's talk about some of that bumpiness. What would you say have been the issues now in Flemington that are pretty heated as of right now? We're recording this in April of 2021.
Yeah. So thankfully, I think we're in a really good spot right now. Honestly, everything I came in 3 years ago was running largely in opposition to the current, or at that time, the plan for the revitalization of the center of town, of Union Hotel, of Courthouse Square. And was really at this place that I felt like I was in the middle of, because it was really essential to get an economic activity, understanding that it felt like we were kind of hanging on by our fingernails for so many years, that we needed something to happen, but that this, especially living a block and a half away from the Union Hotel, personally, I was like, that seems monstrous. That seems like a lot. This has not been a community project. This has not been a project that we've been in together. So getting through that the last 3 years, getting to a place where I think we have a really solid compromise, and we're seeing construction. You can look at the back of the Union Hotel and see into it a little bit.
Yeah,
and go through.
I was drove by it the other day.
Yeah, like it's and to see the bracing, like those step things that are on the back, and the scaffolding, like it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy to see that. I think that there's been a significant amount of kind of air let out because of that, and because we've seen the positive compromise and we've seen progress, and there's a lot of other things kind of moving around. I think with a small town, with a town of under 5,000 people, you, in some ways, you can really, it's easy to be heard because we're so small. And it sometimes feels like I don't want to minimize anyone's concerns, because if somebody has a concern, they can come to me, they can talk to me, we can talk it through. I never want to do that. But sometimes we get very stuck on the tiniest details that, yes, matter. Small details matter. Like how you do something matters. But when it gets in the way of the larger picture, when it's all we're talking about is the teeny tiny details, and we're not talking about the big vision of where Flemington's going to go, and it's so easy to get stuck there. And I think for years, politics has been stuck there. So it's a delicate balance. It's a delicate balance. I like to hear from people. We know that at the municipal level, it is where you can have the most impact on people's lives. You know, trash, roads,
potholes,
all of the taxes, all of that stuff. that's people's lives and their livelihood. And, they come and they tell us about their cable bill, and that's their life. That's their finances. And that's what we're working with and dealing with. So I understand, especially with the history of Flemington, where it seems like we've had some false starts and we've had this kind of plateau after the recession. I understand people's frustration. So it's a very delicate balance in listening and understanding and saying, yes, you maybe you weren't thanked for your previous volunteerism, or something wasn't appreciated, or this didn't work out, or we did this one year and then it went away. Like, I get that kind of cycle of frustration and the history that's here, but we have to commit to a vision and just be persistent and keep going, and adjust when necessary, but keep going. Hear people, but also stay focused. So that's the never-ending balance that I think we're working with.
So, my wife and I have a gym membership up in Flemington, and we live in Lambertville. So, I do tend to try to compare the towns, somewhat, and when our gym would let us, drop off the kids and we'd have a kids night out. And, so we actually dined in Flemington quite a bit before the pandemic hit. And I'll be honest, like it was pretty dead sometimes compared to Lambertville. Of course I'm comparing it to Lambertville and New Hope, but I mean, as you mentioned, the project, where do you see the city, or the borough, I should say, in 5 years? It looks like, I think you mentioned, it looks like compromises were made. I think there's lessons to be learned from that, from places like Stockton that's dealing with a huge development project. Yes. So where do you see the borough at, on a Friday, Saturday night, or just a summer, afternoon in 5 years?
Yes. I mean, once we get through COVID, the pandemic stuff, I certainly see a more vibrant town, and with visitors from people throughout the county, from Lambertville, from New Hope, from all of those places. But I see us having a stronger, tighter core of people that live here. One of the wonderful things about Hunterdon County is our farmland and our open spaces and our access to agriculture, and nature. And that is really important for Hunterdon County. One of the ways we preserve that is by having these kind of centers, by having the town here and having a tight community. And it means maybe increasing population a little bit. So a lot of the opportunity zone study that we're doing right now is looking at additional places for people to live and be part of the city, because we want them here. We want them walking. We understand that years and years ago, when we had Liberty Village in its heyday, and you get buses from New York and people from China and Italy and all of those things that would come here, that is a volume of people that we can still get people in, like locally. We can still get people, from New Jersey, maybe New York and Pennsylvania, but we're not going to have that huge influx that we used to have. Right. So how do we rebalance our economy, support the organizations that are here, the businesses that are here, in a way that is sustainable, and also being understandable about, rent increases and things like that come along with those things. So making sure those kind of social security pieces are, those social services pieces are there too. So I see a more vibrant city. I see a few more, people living here. But us keeping our character, with the excitement of the Union Hotel, with the that kind of heart that is here, with the historic courthouse, the Union Hotel, the Samuel Fleming House that's over on Bunnell Street. Like those pieces, and then just the other historic buildings that are around. Like that stuff is things that people come for and like, and it makes them feel. It feels homey, and capitalizing on that in a smart way, in a way that doesn't kill traffic coming from 31,
Yep.
but has a core of people that are here. So I certainly see more activity and more vibrancy and more life here in 5 years, without a doubt.
Probably a lot of baseball moms and dads going to Diamond Nation, right? Tournaments and stuff like that, right? So I see you're on a lot of committees. Any news? I've interviewed a lot of people from Flemington now. Any news with any of the committees that you're on? I did mention the tourism because I see you're on the chamber here. But I mean, the other ones, is there any news that maybe a lot of people don't know about? Something that's going on?
So my life, so I do a lot of stuff with the Flemington Community Partnership, which is Flemington's business improvement district organization, nonprofit. They're quasi-governmental. I spend a lot of time with them, which I really appreciate because our businesses are so vital. We have about 400 businesses and services in our little 1.4 mile town. And a lot of my time has been, I feel like I talk about it a lot, but people may not know about it. The Opportunity Zone committee and designation that we got from the federal government has provided us with a grant for $100,000, and we're almost done the study and looking about how to do all of those things we already talked about in terms of bringing that life and that vibrancy back to town and getting people on the same page and listening and doing a lot of listening. And that is going to be released next month in a public forum. Wow. And what I think is really different about it and what I want people to know about it is that if you've been around for a while, you've seen studies happen before in Flemington. And it's actually really important just to repeat them because things change over time. But what I think is unique about this is that the Flemington Community Partnership is also bringing an investment of money to commit to a project that is recommended at the end. So it's not just, this is what you should do, go do it. It's, we've got some money to back that up and to say, okay, let's do, there's been a lot of discussion about, a walking trail connecting different areas of the town. Trolleys have been discussed kind of openly. I'm not divulging any secrets, but these are all things that kind of seem basic, but we have to do. and that's really exciting to me that we're going to see that progress, and I've really enjoyed my time with them. So yeah.
For listeners that might and viewers that might not know, the opportunity zones are, basically, the state designates certain municipalities or sections, neighborhoods, and the taxes are lower for businesses to start there. Is that correct?
So it's
right.
Really
I mean, we're discounted, right? I mean,
it's really complicated. So it's actually a federal designation.
Oh, federal. Okay.
So it's not, so even though Senator Booker was integral in creating the legislation, he, and he's from New Jersey, obviously, but it is a federal program. It's done by census tract. So it's really, so Flemington's in a really unique place because we are all the same census tract. So a lot of places, especially the more metropolitan areas, parts of, Camden, some of it's an opportunity zone, but not all of it. And there's an investment, there's tax benefits if you invest and you stay in that community. If you for 10 years, you get some capital gains relief.
Got it.
For the people that are doing the investment. And it doesn't have to be physical property. It can be employment. It can be a business as well. But it's kind of easiest to understand from the property perspective. It seems to have been, for us, for Flemington, it's been a great asset because it's kind of put people over the top. We've been able to say, hey, we're an opportunity zone, come check us out. And for people that maybe have been hesitant to invest or put money in, it's kind of that extra, it's that extra push, and it really puts them over the top in terms of stuff that's here. So we do have the Agway site, the old Agway site, not the part with Guitar Boy, but across the street. Those developers said that they came because of the opportunity zone designation. So it's certainly been an asset, and I think we've been able to leverage it in a way that's been really wonderful for Flemington.
Cool. Well, my guest today has been Caitlin Giles-McCormick. Caitlin, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to join us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Take care.